Well, to give you the Israeli perspective, I'm joined now by Diker. He is project director for the program to counter political warfare at the Jerusalem Center for Public Affairs. Thanks very much, Dan, for joining us here on the program. So we've heard their condemnation from across the globe, especially from the Muslim world. Hamas is calling for a new intifada. What's your response to this?
Well, it's unsurprising that Hamas is calling for a new intifada. They're calling for the murder of Israelis every single day, and they actually call for the murder of the PLO and Fatah, whom they throw off of buildings in Gaza. So it's unsurprising to hear the Muslim Brotherhood's Palestinian branch calling for violence against Israel, because that's their raison d'etre when they wake up in the morning, when they go to sleep at night. But when you talk about Muslim majority countries, let's remember that what President Trump is saying to the Palestinian leadership is enough of demonization of Israel in Jerusalem. Jerusalem has been Israel's capital 3 times over the last 3,000 years, and currently since 1949.
And we've heard that argument, but many people are saying that that was the final part of an agreement to a two-state solution for a peace deal. So for him to trump all of that and go straight to that makes a lot of people say that the US is now not a neutral mediator.
Well, in fact, the United States has maintained a consulate on Agron Street for the PLO for decades, and actually has no representation in Jerusalem for Israel. So what this has done, President Trump has actually rebalanced the American diplomatic posture towards Israel in a way that I'm sure you would agree would be fair to have to be far more equal and balanced than it was in the past. But what is really important here is to understand that the fact that Jerusalem has been Israel's capital, that the Knesset is in Israel, the government is in Israel, that every Israeli, whether, by the way, Jews and even much more privately, but Muslims and Druze and Christians all understand that Jerusalem is the capital of Israel. And in fact, if you want to check yourself about how secure the Temple Mount is for Muslims, for tens of thousands of Muslims who pray every day, and especially on Pride days, you'll have to understand that only Israel can protect people of all three religions. Sorry to interrupt you,
sir, but what's happened now is security has had to be increased across the region because of this announcement. What it's caused is protests and uprisings.
Really? Has the Arab Spring over the last 7 years in Syria, Iraq, Yemen, Tunisia, and Egypt been a function of the Jerusalem decision? I mean, the entire Arab Sunni world is collapsing, has nothing to do with Jerusalem.
But did it need another implosion?
No, this is not an implosion. This is an American decision by the president to keep his promises to the American people, and there are those who continue in the international community to reject any Jewish connection to the historic and eternal Jewish capital. Now, some of us have called that historically anti-Semitism.
When you look at where does this leave the peace accord now? But where does this actually leave the peace deals now?
It actually, here, and listen very well, this actually paves the path towards a peace agreement between Israel and the Palestinian Authority.
Because the Palestinian Authority have said on the BBC that this is now, the peace deals are dead in the water as a result.
Well, of course, they actually threatened to boycott President Trump also, but do you believe them when they say that? The reason that this leads towards a very viable peace agreement is that Israel's recognition as a Jewish state and Israel's recognition as having Jerusalem as its capital are the absolute milestones and the important postulates towards making other concessions to the Palestinian Authority to come to a peace deal with the Palestinian leadership. Let's remember, and I think your reporter got this wrong, 98.5% of all Palestinians in the West Bank live under Palestinian territorial and administrative control. It's very important to understand that. But Israel will be called upon to make further territorial concessions to the Palestinians, which many Israelis and this Israeli government, as I understand it, is prepared to do. However, recognizing Israel as the undivided and eternal capital of the state of Israel is a prerequisite towards coming towards asking Israel to make additional concessions in order to come to some sort of agreement between itself and the Palestinian Authority in order
Diker, we'll have
come to a final agreement between the sides.
We're sadly run out of time, but thank you very much, Mr. Diker, for joining us here on the program.